What's up everybody? It's not Film Friday, but I have a film related video because we are looking at a brand new camera. It actually just got announced, released today, I think released, but this is the Lomomod. The Lomomod No1 DIY camera kit. And this is a 120 camera. Lomography here in New York. Unfortunately they've closed their store tier, but they still have an office here in New York, and they were kind enough to reach out and say, hey, do you want to look at this new camera that we're going to be selling soon? And so they gave me this, and I'm going to be putting it together. Like I mentioned, the whole thing is made out of cardboard, so there's a little bit of concern about light leak there because they're just pieces that fit together. But I've got some tape, some gaff tape, I can utilize that. The coolest part about this, I think, is that it uses a Sutton lens. We'll look at it physically once we get in the box because I haven't actually opened this up yet, but the Sutton lens is something I wasn't familiar with, and I think a lot of people aren't familiar with it because I had to look it up and there's not a lot of information online about it, but it was essentially this lens, this spherical lens, actual sphere, that was developed by this guy named Thomas Sutton in the 1860s or something like that. And it was essentially two halves of a sphere, and there was an empty cavity in the middle, and you would screw them together, and then you'd fill that cavity with liquid. In his case, water, distilled water if you could find it, because it was the clearest, and you want clear optics when you're taking a picture. And then behind that, you would have a curved plane where you would have your film. In his case, it was a piece of metal with silver on it that he would expose onto. But it created a panoramic because of the light coming in and crossing and exposing that whole curved plane. This isn't a panoramic camera. It uses a slightly different design of that Sutton lens, but you still have to fill this lens with liquid. And the coolest part about this, and the reason I think that they're hoping that this catches on, is that you can fill it with whatever liquid you want. So I could put water in here, I could put Gatorade in here, I could tint water any color I want using food coloring. I could get really creative with it, the Lomography way, the Lomography style, just get creative. So I love that. I'm looking forward to putting this together. Lomomod No1. Inside we have information about the lens and the manual. We have the actual shutter mechanism and manual. And then what's cool is we have this like photo book almost. It talks about the lens and how to modify it and things like that, but there are lots of really awesome photos in here as well that I guess other people have taken using the same camera. And then we have the actual cardboard of the camera itself. I'll get into that in a second. This is the lens and shutter assembly. Here we have our brick of cardboard. This is the camera itself. This is what the camera is made out of. And then we have some stickers to decorate it with. Oh, that is really nice. Look at this manual. Individual steps, very, very well drawn, and not a lot of instructions, just pictures. I really like this. I like this a lot. Hopefully this will be easy to follow along. I'm not gonna give you step-by-step instructions. That's gonna be a really long video and really boring. I'm just gonna do a time lapse, and then we'll look at the camera once it's done. Well, that took about 2 hours, a little bit over 2 hours, and I now have a completed camera. The process was not too difficult. It was a little frustrating at times. The biggest issue for me is that this is made out of cardboard, and so under enough force, under enough pressure, cardboard just bends, or depending on where the force is coming from, it'll start fraying. Be aware of where you're pushing on the cardboard, and then also make sure that you double check the direction of things. Right at the beginning, about 20 minutes in, I realized that I had put the first piece upside down, and I had to disassemble everything that I had assembled up to that point. And the biggest issue with that, obviously it's a little bit annoying, but the more that you push these things into each other, the cardboard, and then remove them, the looser they're going to be. But again, this is a cardboard camera, so you can't expect too much. Before we go out, I can't forget that we have to fill the lens with some liquid. Right now it's just empty, and I'm sure I could shoot with an empty lens like that, but we actually want to fill it with some liquid. So you want to have the camera perpendicular to the ground or the floor when you're filling it up. If you fill it up this way, it's just going to go straight through. So fill it up this way. It's a little yellow. It's because we got the liquid in there. There's one little bubble right in the middle of the lens. If you have any big bubbles in there, you can just sort of tap until they escape out the top, because bubbles want to go up. But we're gonna put some film in the back here, put on the back, and then head out. You guys get a nice crotch shot because I wanted to show you how to load film into this thing. You got the little knob here. Make sure that goes into your roll. Pop it in like that. Put it into this side and turn that. I'm gonna pop the back on so we don't lose any frames here. There we go. Just gotta make sure all the pieces line up. There are these little like notch things that you can, those are really hard to push through. I might actually 3D print some of those for myself because I don't see those lasting. This one's already bent a bunch. What I do want to show you though is you have this little door there, and that's where you view how to get to the next frame. 3, 2, and frame 1. We're there. So close that so no light gets in, and we're ready to go shoot. I didn't actually mention it, but you probably saw from the video when I was loading it, I'm using Fuji Pro 400H in the camera. Ideally, I would have used Lomography film, Lomography 120 film, but I didn't have any in my fridge, so I used Fuji. I thought about using black and white, some other ones, but I wanted to give the camera as much of a fighting chance as possible, so I'm using some color negative that has a lot of latitude. But we're down in the Lower East Side now, and I want to take some photos, so let's get to it. So far, the best thing about this camera is that I just point and shoot. Literally, there's nothing I have to worry about. I keep getting ready to take a photo and then like wondering what I need to change. And the only thing I need to do is make sure I've advanced the frame unless I want to do double exposure. It's got one shutter speed, 1/100th of a second. Otherwise you can do bulb, and it's at f11. The only other control I have is choosing the ISO, the speed of the film that I put in there, which is 400. So I'm good. It's actually really fun not having to worry about any of that stuff. In case you're wondering what I'm doing right now, I'm waiting for all of these pigeons to take off at any point. As I was walking over, a lady walked through them and they like swarmed up into a big like flock cloud of pigeons, and it was awesome. It was right in the sunlight. So I'm hoping it'll happen again. I'm just sitting here waiting now. Wish me luck. So I had to go scare him myself. But hopefully that picture turned out. I don't know, we'll see. I decided to try double exposure. Took a picture of some old brick and juxtaposed it with a brand new metal and glass building. We'll see how it turns out. I was rushing to try to get that guy going by on the bike, and I completely didn't realize that was my last frame. So we rolled up the film all the way. I'm gonna take it out now, and luckily I'm only about a half a block from where I get my film, a lot of my film processed and developed, so we can take it right away, get it developed, and then go home and scan it. I've scanned all the photos. I just looked at them. You've seen them already, but first impressions. Everything's soft, everything's out of focus. I don't know if that has to do with how I installed the lens or if it was the liquid I was using or what, but I'm not that mad about it. This is a lomography camera after all. The whole idea of lomography is lo-fi photography. But that being said, I'm in love with the colors of these photos. The liquid that I put in there, the yellow liquid, did not affect the color of the photos as much as I thought it was going to. Maybe I diluted it too much, but whatever it did to the colors of these photos, and I've shot Fuji Pro 400H before and they didn't look like this. I love the way that it rendered colors. So it did come with these. These are like little aperture plates, and I don't know if you can tell, but they're different shapes. So there's a heart, there's a Star of David, there's like a little raindrop. If you pop these in there, or these ones up top, which are just smaller diameter apertures, it'll change the aperture of the lens itself. And if you're getting that bokeh and you have one of those shapes, the bokeh will be in the shape of the shape that you put in there, which is really cool. I didn't mess with those. There's so much that I didn't mess with on this camera. I could have put different color liquids in there. I could have tried to shoot with no liquid to see what that looked like. There's also a ring that they include that you can install to increase the space between the back plane and the lens, which changes the focal plane and allows you to focus closer. There's a lot that you can do with this camera that I didn't want to try, or I didn't have time to try. I may in the future try to shoot with different liquids and try to shoot with different film. The coolest thing you could do is basically create your own filters. So if you have black and white film in here and you want to use a yellow filter or a red filter, which people do all the time when they're shooting black and white, you could just put yellow or red liquid into the lens and that'll be your filter. I gotta be honest, I really like this thing. It's weird to carry around. It's a little bit bulky, but it's got a lot of unexpected features. Like I mentioned, you do have bulb mode, and it's a really clever design where you could just push that back and forth to switch between normal and bulb. It also has a cable release port and a flash sync port. What? The lens assembly is actually really cool. So, also I didn't mention this at the top. So when you flip it up, it's your sight, your viewfinder port thing. But if you flip it down, not only does it protect these things, which are just cardboard, not only does it protect them from breaking, but it also acts as a lens cover. And your lens is covered up, which I think is pretty cool. And you also have some neck strap lugs, which are, again, just cardboard, so I don't know how much I'd trust them, but you could wear this around your neck if you wanted to. And seeing these photos come out of something that was built by me, that's, I think, what is most special about this camera. So it's not perfect by any means, and I don't think it's meant to be, but if you're willing to put something together and you've got 60 bucks lying around, I think this is worth it. I showed you all the photos I took in here, but if you want to see any other photos that I shoot in the future on this camera or other cameras, my digital camera, all of my film cameras, and I own over 20 of them. If you want to see what those are, you can click up here. But if you want to see my photography in the future, going forward, make sure you follow me on Instagram. I'm always uploading stuff there. And I'm always uploading stuff to my story when I'm trying out new things like this. Again, Lomography, thank you very much for sending this to me, and thank you all for watching. I really appreciate it. I'll see you in the next one. And don't forget to create and explore. Bye.